JP,
What's going on, Miss Ashby?
what's going on? Happy Tuesday.
You doing it too, huh?
It's a
You
new day
doing it
for
too,
us.
huh? I I'm telling you, those Thursday, Friday, Saturday series mess me up every time. All on my show last night. I kept thinking the day before was Sunday, and I kept saying in Sunday's game, Saturday's game. Gets me every single time.
Me too. I was doing the same thing, looking at people's stats. I was like, oh, on the Sunday game, it didn't exist. And then we're even more off here playing a game on Wednesday.
I know we're doing this on Tuesday for the first time ever. I'm gonna be out of whack all week long.
This is the time of year where everything's just postseason craziness. You got to keep up week by week.
That's exactly right because everything changes from one weekend to the next. I mean, look no further than this Clemson baseball team. We going into the weekend, we got them going on the road. No way they're hosting a regional. They go up there and even by sweeping a lowly Pitt team, I think they're all but a lock to be hosting now. It's what a difference 3 games have made.
Absolutely. I think we talked about our last few weeks have been kind of a rinse and repeat of feeling like we were seeing the same issues, same struggles, losing 3 series in a row, and felt like it completely turned on its head this weekend. We'll talk all about it, but first, want to go ahead and thank our sponsor, Shorty and Goose's Driving School, your one-stop driving shop. They have many years of experience and pride themselves on being a small family business rather than just a business. They offer everything, including permit testing, first-time driver's license training courses, driver's license testing, and defensive driving courses to lower insurance costs and point reductions. Call or text Freddie at 843-495-0741 to find out how Freddie and Liz can help you. Well, JP, going into last weekend, did you predict him to win or did you predict him to lose?
Lose 2 out of 3.
I'm not here to gloat. But my eternal optimism finally did come in, and Tigers won a series in pretty easy fashion. What were your overall takeaways from the weekend? What were you happy to see that we hadn't seen in the past few weeks?
Complimentary baseball. I mean, I don't think we've seen that from them since the Louisville series, really. We saw it a little bit against Florida State in a game or two, but for the most part, we've not seen a lot of it of late. When the pitching faltered a little bit this weekend on Friday and Saturday, the offense kind of picked it up. They just haven't been able to do that. I mean, I forgot the adjective you just used to describe the sweep. I would use the word dominating because it was. I mean, they dominated that thing start to finish, beginning with the no-hitter on Thursday. But it was good to see them start playing some complimentary baseball. I'll use Saturday as an example. Even though Clemson had gotten out to an early lead, they did the same thing against Duke in one of those games. Got out to I think it was a 6-1 lead after the second inning, maybe.
Yep.
And the pitching couldn't hold it. They get out to a big lead again in the finale Saturday. And while it was never in jeopardy, Pitt tried to get some momentum late. They put a few runs on the board, but the offense would answer. And to me, that was one of the biggest differences. They totaled over. They have 45 hits this weekend. They hit over 340 as a team. I'll use the finale again as another example. They were 9 of 28 with runners on base, 6 of 19 runners in scoring position. And one other thing that stood out was the aggressiveness on the base pass. How many bases they stole? That's kind of like what I was expecting for a lot of the season. We just haven't seen it outside of Purify. But
they were bullying that catcher the whole weekend.
They were running on that guy. I think they stole 11 bases during the 3 games. Only got thrown out one time. They are now 71 of 84, either 71 of 85 on the season, something like that. I'd have to go back and look at it, but that was what they're 73 of 87 now. But the complimentary baseball, the aggressiveness on the base pass, those are probably the 2 biggest things.
We talk a lot about starting strong. I feel like every single week we've said the key is having a solid night from Aiden Canuck on Thursday or Friday and building off of that. And really that hasn't been exemplified any more than this weekend. Like, you couldn't ask anything more from him. Combined no hitter, what was it? 12 strikeouts, 7.1 innings. Like, it was a dominant performance. And I think it set the tone to such a degree where I think the other pitchers fed off of it. I think the offense fed off of it. And going back to what you were saying about complementary baseball, like, I think you have that kind of performance from him, and it would be really hard not to win a game.
People probably get tired of hearing us say set the tone because we use that phrase
Hey,
so
but
often.
this weekend showed that
That's what he did Friday night. That is what he did Friday night, and it set him up for the rest of the weekend. You only needed, since he pitched into the 8th, they used Joe Allen and Lucas Mostad, but, you didn't really burn them. They were able to come back and pitch again at a later time during the weekend. Then on Saturday, it couldn't have worked out any better. You only used Titsworth and McGovern. Titsworth finally gives you another quality start. So it sets yourself up for being in a great position on Saturday, really, no matter what happened, because you were able to bring Allen back. You were able to bring Mostad back if you needed him. I mean, if they can get that kind of outing, and it doesn't have to be a no-hitter, but if Canuck can go 6 2/3, 7 1/3, tomorrow, or I'm assuming he's going to pitch tomorrow anyways, if not Thursday, and then game 1 in the regionals, that really sets this team up, because I think they've got to stay in the winner's bracket once you get into regional play. I think that's where they start flirting with some trouble if they try to go through the loser's bracket. I think they're in good. I think they can manage going through the winner's bracket, though. But again, I've said it 100 times. I think it starts and stops with him. When he can go deep and you don't have to burn through guys in that first game, it sets them up for success for the rest of the weekend. And you just said it. This weekend was a prime example.
Also, on a weekend where our bullpen, Clemson's bullpen, is so depleted, like, you have so many guys facing injury and all this stuff, you really had to have that. And we had said that the past few weeks is starting pitching has to be really good to win these series. And for this weekend, I thought it was really good to see Talon Bell have another really quality outing, bounce back from Florida State game. What did you think about him this weekend?
Still hasn't thrown more than 60 pitches. That's the first thing that jumps out at me. But no, it was a disaster down there in Tallahassee. I thought the moment looked a little too big for him. And that was a raucous environment that day. Probably not quite as raucous as it was in the first 2 games of that series, but it was still a raucous environment. A little bit different up in Pitt. That place I think they holds like 600 people. So it's a little bit different, but it was really good to see. I mean, he was good. He was exactly what you needed him to be in that finale. He gives you 4 good innings, and that's kind of what you need out of him right now. Got to be a real big confidence booster, too, coming off that, a bad outing against the Seminoles.
Talking about confidence boosters, I would say that's what the entire weekend was. And, I'm really glad that they had Pitt at the end of the season and it wasn't a Florida State as their last series or something, because having something that was that dominant, as you said, especially on the offensive side of things, I think is really huge. What did you think about, I think it was almost everybody having at least a hit. When's the last time that we've seen that consistently?
Yeah, you had to go back a little bit, but I said it last night on my show last night. I don't really care who they play. I don't care that Pitt's sorry and they're not a really good team. To me, the opponent didn't really matter as much as what they did on the field mattered. They needed to go out and put 3 good games together and sweep whoever they were playing. And they did. They went above and beyond that. I mean, it was just utterly dominating. And after you've had the 3 weeks that they have had prior to that series, you're just looking for some positives. You just you want to see some semblance of life from your offense, and you got way more than that this weekend. I mean,
There's more than semblance of life.
yes, you got way more than that. I mean, these guys just they seem like they're starting to get it going. Cantarella's raking. Jack Crichton, he got screwed out of ACC Player of the Week this week. I think he was 9 of 13. 9 of 13.
He was 9 of 13 with 8 consecutive hits at one point.
And he doesn't win ACC Player of the Week. It's how do you make that make sense? I can tell you he got at least one vote. You know, Priest kind of continues to chug along like he's been chugging along since ACC play began. And he's been, I'll be honest with you, I didn't realize how consistent he's been since the beginning of ACC play. You know, he struggled a little bit before we got into conference play, but he's kind of moving right along there. But Gerald's the same way.
He was really, really good this series.
Purify bounced back after going hitless last weekend. I mean, everybody did something. You know, I think they had 4 guys that had multiple steals this weekend. But it really kind of started with Cantarella and Crichton, man. Those guys were just setting the table and letting the rest of the lineup drive them in.
I mean, you're looking at Cam with a 15-game hit streak at this point. Had a single the first game, was 4 or 5 with a walk Friday, 3 or 4 with 2 walks, 2 RBI Saturday. I mean, that's where it starts. We talked about it with Connaught. On the offensive side, it starts with him. It does. And I think that couldn't have come at a better time, seeing him come alive.
Yeah. Cantarella's 14 of 25 the past 2 weekends. He's got, you know, we talked about his average dipping below 300. It's back up to 332. That didn't take long.
That'll fix it.
Yeah, that'll do. That will do. Crichton's got his average up to over 300. You know, that's the kind of role you want to be on as you head into Durham. You know, again, I don't think they got to go make some spectacular run to host, you know, next week. You know, if you go make one, though, maybe you can get back into the top 8 conversation. You probably got to win it. You at least got to make the championship game to get there, to at least be in the discussion. But probably need a little bit of help too. But, you know, they always say you want to be playing your best baseball as you go into the postseason. You know, a week ago, you couldn't say that about this team. Now, they kind of resemble more of what we saw in the first half. Absolutely.
It felt like even guys that had been struggling contributed in a big way. You had Chufo with huge double on Thursday. Had TP Wentworth, I thought it was really good to see him have a spark, have that double. And what does that do? Not just having your best players, but having everybody hitting well. What does that do for the postseason?
You know, sometimes hitting's contagious, just like slumping can be sometimes. You know, and I think the entire team was slumping there for a bit. And, you know, right now it seems like everybody's going, yeah, Wentworth was really good, particularly in the series opener. He had a really good game, and that it comes at an opportune time because they might have to depend more on him in the postseason than they have in the regular season. We'll see how that plays out. But, you know, I thought everybody played a part. And again, that's kind of what you want. You know, you want to see your offense kind of finding its groove. I keep going back to Eric Bakich, you know, after the Saturday loss to Duke. He's sitting there saying, and I saw so many people ridicule him for this. We're going to go on an epic run, and it's going to be explosive. Go out the next day, lose to Duke again. He doubles down. He says the same thing. We're going on an epic run, and it's going to be explosive. Well, it damn sure was explosive over the weekend. I mean, like it's a 3-game winning streak, but you got to start somewhere. You know, you got to start somewhere.
I mean, if you're talking about explosive, that is the way to start it, you know?
Yeah. And you also saw them playing a little bit of long ball this weekend, something they've not really excelled at.
Absolutely. And 2 guys with multiple home runs.
Yeah.
Gerald and Purify.
Was it Purify? Yeah, Purify. Priest had one. He had the long
Like the
Long one. Probably
460 something. Yeah.
still hadn't landed yet. Went over the batter's eye. Yeah,
It's in
Pure
Philly.
Purify had a couple. Gerald had a couple, right? Listy had a one he hit out on a rope. Didn't look like it was 50 foot off the ground.
And that was in like the 9th pitch of that AB too.
Yeah, they just this is a team that we've talked about it a lot. They don't have a lot of power, probably not as much as most of us would have thought they'd have this year. They found other ways to win games, but it was nice to see them play a little bit of long ball this weekend too. Again, they had people contributing in a bunch of different ways, in ways that we've not seen a whole lot of lately. That to me, again, I don't care that it was against a team that finished near the bottom of the ACC standings and was kind of struggling going into that series. They shouldn't say kind of struggling because they were playing pretty good baseball, but I think they had dropped their last series, if I'm remembering right. But, Clemson just went up there and asserted their dominance and put their foot on their throat pretty quick and never really let off.
So looking forward, looking at ACC tournament and regional and super regional and all the things, that's looking far ahead, I know. But how do they keep that consistency? What do you think helps there not be, something like the Duke series and something like the Pitt series? You're looking at two different teams. What do you think eliminates that gap?
I think a lot of that's mental, especially in baseball. Everybody's going to go into a slump. It's not all the time you see the whole team go into a slump at the same time, but sometimes those things are contagious. It's just as contagious as hitting can be. Just the way they played this weekend, you talked about it being a confidence boost a minute ago for the offense or for the hitters or whatever however you want to say it. But, I think that plays a big part. You kind of get out of that funk. You kind of feel what it's like to have fun playing again. That they didn't look like they were having a lot of fun playing the game the last 3 weeks. They looked like they were having fun this weekend. At least Thursday and Saturday. I didn't get to watch Friday, but at least Thursday and Saturday. To me, it's mostly a mental thing. I remember Bakich also saying after the last loss to Duke that before they went to Pitt or before they played the first game, he was going to meet with every player individually, kind of simplify what he wanted him to do. Seemed like that might have worked, whatever it was. He doesn't always get, he doesn't get always, he doesn't usually get very specific about those kind of details. But, again, I just think it's a mental thing, man. I just think they needed a weekend like they just had to kind of get out of that funk and doing it right before you go to Durham. I mean, there's not a more opportune time than that.
He also talked, I can't remember if this was during the Duke series or the Florida State series. You'll have to remind me, but he said something about needing there to be a little bit more compete, which
after the Coastal game.
And that's something that we had never heard him say anything like that. And I think with what you were talking about, the base running and scoring with runners in scoring position, all that stuff, that is what he meant by that. It was night and day how much better that was. And I think that feeds everything too. When you have people that are, stealing bases and sprinting to beat something out and making something that should have been a single, a double, all that stuff, it looked like a different team to me.
And when you start playing with a little momentum and things are kind of going right for you, all of a sudden the discipline at the plate changes. The approaches look better. I mean, everything just kind of starts to look like it's clicking. You don't notice guys swinging at bad 2-strike pitches or, chasing a ball out of the zone with 2 strikes or swinging one above their eyes on a 3-0 count or whatever.
Nobody's pressing.
Exactly. You don't, the pressure just kind of comes off. It's probably like a world of weight lifted off of their shoulders now. But to me, that's another big thing. You kind of got that albatross from around your neck and you don't have to worry about pressing and guys trying to do too much. And we didn't see that, man, over the weekend. we didn't see guys up there trying to yank it, on every pitch. We saw some opposite field shots, guys taking balls the other way, particularly Crichton and Canarella. They really were just making the best out of what they got and just taking it the other way if they had to. But I can't stress enough how much I think that just having a weekend like they just had with that much success, how much it takes the pressure off. Like you say, people aren't going to press as much. And back to just, having fun playing baseball, because it didn't look like they were having a lot of fun for a while there.
No, it was
Winning,
and body language and
winning solves a lot of ills. And once you start to win and have a little bit of success, it's much easier to raise that level of compete then.
Looking at the ACC honors that came out, got Malstead and Canuck first team. Who was second team?
Was it Canarella?
Canarella second team and Colin Priest third team. I thought Reed Garris might have gotten snubbed there, but was great to see those guys recognized for, especially Malstead, for how clutch he's been this year.
That day was when I realized exactly how consistent Priest has been since ACC play began. I mean, I think his average is like pushing 280 or something in ACC play. It's over 270. It's below 280. And most of his home runs have come in ACC play. I mean, he's been a lot more consistent than I've been giving him credit for, and I had to eat that crow last night. So I'm going to eat it again right here. Hopefully he can – a lot of it's been feast or famine, don't get me wrong, but he's still got like the fourth most strikeouts on the team. But, that ballpark in Durham, there's a lot of days where that's a hitter's park, and hopefully he'll be able to jack a couple out.
JP, when are you headed to Durham?
First thing in the morning, and I will be there
the whole weekend.
I'll be there until they lose. I hope I don't come right back tomorrow.
Be a lot of traveling.
Yeah, I'm staying till they lose. So if that's tomorrow, I'll be back tomorrow. If they win a few, I'm staying till they lose. I'm not driving back and forth. It's a little too far for that.
So I don't exactly know how we go about doing a prediction for ACC tournaments. Not quite as cut and dry, but let's do it like this. How far do you see them going, and do you see them beating Virginia Tech tomorrow?
I think they're going to beat Virginia Tech tomorrow. I just think Clemson's the better team. The Hokies have lost, or coming into the tournament, they've lost like 9 of their last 12 ACC games. I mean, I know that kind of sounds familiar. Can't say that about Clemson anymore. I just want to make sure people know that I know that sounds familiar. But, interesting thing here, they saved their Friday guy for tomorrow. They didn't throw their Friday guy today against Stanford. They threw their Saturday pitcher against Stanford today. I think they've only got 2 or 3 guys. They're kind of similar to Clemson. They only got 2 or 3 guys in that lineup that hit over 300. I think it might only be 2. I think they've only got 2 that are hitting double-digit home runs. So a lot of similarities there. I think Clemson's got the better pitcher. I think they're going to roll with Canuck tomorrow, particularly now that you're playing Virginia Tech and they saved their best guy for tomorrow, so you're going to roll your best guy out there. I am of the opinion that Clemson's going to host, no matter what they do tomorrow. But, I don't think that's a certainty in everybody's mind. You go out and win tomorrow, then you've locked that up and taken it out of everybody's hands. So with that in mind, yeah, you probably want to roll Canuck out there.
You know what I thought was so interesting was Clemson was so close to being the 4 seed in that tournament. It all came down to one game, which would have been one game if the Tigers had beat Florida State on that Friday night.
That was the difference between the 5th seed and the 1 seed.
Yep.
Not the 4 seed, the 1 seed. They win that game that Friday night that they gave up that lead twice. They are the 1 seed. But as far as how far I think they can go, I think they're going to win tomorrow. Win tomorrow. And I think they're either going to get knocked out Thursday or Friday. I don't think they got the pitching to win 5 games in 5 days. Not at this point. I don't. Even if by some chance you get a couple of these guys back, they've been out a couple of weekends. You got one that's been out about 6 weeks now. I just don't know how much help they'd be even if you had them back. I just don't see enough arms to do it. But I think they could go up there and win 2 or 3 for sure. But I don't see them making a run to the weekend.
Here's a question then. If Clemson doesn't have the pitching to make it all the way through, what ACC team does?
I think Florida State does. I think North Carolina does. To me, those are probably the 2 best teams in the conference from a pitching standpoint. Florida State starting pitching is strong. They got Arnold on Friday night. God, I'm losing. Can't remember the guy's name, but that pitches on Saturday. But when Clemson went down there, he was better than Arnold was. He was just shut Clemson down until it started raining that night and that game was suspended. But I think Florida State has got the pitching. I think North Carolina's got the pitching. But fortunately, they'll only have to win 4 games in 4 days, not 5 in 5 days. So that's the benefit of getting that top 4 seed for sure. But I don't know that any of the teams that got the single bye like Clemson, North Carolina State, Georgia Tech, not Georgia Tech, Clemson, North Carolina State, whoever the other 2 were, but I don't know that they've got the depth to make it all the way. But it is baseball; anything certainly can happen. I mean, I have seen stranger things. Saw Clemson win this tournament in Bakic's first year when they didn't have a whole lot of pitching depth that year. They won pool play and then kind of ran through the rest of it without they didn't even drop a game in pool play. So I mean, stranger things have happened, and you never know if this team really is on a run. Maybe they can pull it off. We shall see.
We shall see. I'm agreeing with you. I think they win tomorrow. I think they're the better team. I think they're coming off of a few days of rest at this point. I think they throw Knock. I'm going to say he's better than their ace, especially after that performance he just turned in, reigning ACC Pitcher of the Week. And I don't know. I could see him making a run. It's going to depend on what we were talking about with their consistency. If they look like the team that played Pitt, I could see him going into Saturday or Sunday. If not, go back home, get ready for a regional.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I definitely can see them making it to Friday. I think they got enough to make it till Saturday if they get a couple of things that go their way. But we'll see what happens. I fully expect Knock to roll out there tomorrow. If you had played Stanford and they pitched their Friday guy today, maybe I might try to hold on to him for a day, but not under these circumstances. Roll your best out there and see what happens.
Speaking of regionals, want to give a shout out to Clemson softball, who's headed to the Super Regional in Austin on Thursday. It's crazy. They're playing at 9 p.m.
Every game's at 9 p.m.
I know. It's crazy to me. But
ESPN, you can't never. Sometimes you can't find the reasoning behind why they do some things. It is 8 o'clock local time out there, so I mean they'll be playing in prime time.
It's going to be interesting. They didn't lose a game in their regional. They've won, I think, at this point it's like 24 of their last 26, something crazy.
Talk about a team on a roll playing their best ball heading into the postseason.
This is they're playing their very best, and it's a good time to peak for sure. But hopefully Clemson baseball can do the same, and it's going to be an interesting week.
I think the softball team's going to beat Texas and make it to Oklahoma City.
I think so too. They're one of those teams that kind of like baseball is, they find so many ways to beat you. Like they went to a 9-inning game the other day, won it 1-0, and then the next game they're run ruling somebody, so it's going to be interesting.
They're kind of like the Clemson team was earlier in the year.
That's what I'm saying.
They just find a bunch of different ways to beat you, man. It's I don't get to watch a lot of them. I know you watch more than I do, but It's kind of setting up to be a storybook type season, especially the way it started.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting. A lot of Clemson ball this weekend, and we'll have you covered with all of it. Make sure you follow the Clemson Insider for all your baseball, softball coverage. JP will be live and in person. And make sure you like and subscribe. We want to thank our sponsor, Shorty and Goose's Driving School, for making this show possible. And we'll see you guys next week to talk postseason baseball.
And a home Clemson regional.